All right, Josh Taylor putting his belt on the line at 140, had to vacate a ton of belts. He hasn't been in the ring for a very, very long time. There's been a massive layoff. He's coming off a victory that is questionable because a lot of people thought Jack Catterall won, like myself, and I thought that was a robbery. So the big question here is, Bryan, what happens if Josh Taylor beats Teofimo Lopez? What does that mean for him?
And for people new to the channel, we tend to do this with the big fights. What happens if this person wins? What happens if this person wins? We just did it with Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko. So you could expect this maybe twice next month, depending on how things go. Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez is a massive fight. One that, as we're talking about this, as I mentioned in our cold open, I don't know how I'm picking this fight yet. But if Josh Taylor does win this, like the loser's just going to have a ton of questions, and it would be kind of a devastating loss for either side because Josh Taylor, sneakily, 32 years old. And Teofimo Lopez already has the one loss against George Kambosos. Having a second loss within, what is that, a 2-year period? Not great. And ultimately, I think if Josh Taylor wins this fight, we'll start with him. He's top 2 at 140, along with Regis Prograis. I think Subriel Matias is third. He's sort of the boogeyman in waiting, and we'll see what his next move is. But I think he and Regis Prograis would remain the top 2 in the weight class. They had a fight before. Josh Taylor got the win, World Boxing Super Series. A lot of people felt like that should have been a draw, myself included. And if you look at the contenders for what will be Josh Taylor retaining his WBO title, if you look at the contenders for the title beyond Teofimo Lopez, who's number 1 right now, you have Arnold Barbosa. So you're going to fight him next. That's an easy fight to make. Top rank in-house, all that stuff. Arnold Barbosa's dying to get a title shot. Hasn't yet. Jose Ramirez, former champion, but already lost to Josh Taylor. Is that something that they're going to run back? It was a close fight on the cards, but the 2 knockdowns put it right in Josh Taylor's favor, perhaps rightfully so. You have Ergashev, you have Sandor Martin, you have Ryan Garcia. Richardson Hitchens is outside of the top 10, but he's somebody who will be in the top 10 if he beats Montana Love next month. But promotionally, are they going to make that fight? Is that a big enough fight that you can do the zone ESPN sort of matchmaking there? I'm not sure. But ultimately, I think Arnold Barbosa probably is the guy that Josh Taylor fights after this. But the Teofimo Lopez piece, Shantelle, that is like a damning one. If he has a second loss here, is it not?
All right, well, I should probably get into what happens if Josh Taylor wins before we get into Teofimo Lopez, because sure. I think I should be able to answer that question too.
I tried to tee you up for the controversy, so that was me not being a good teammate.
I mean, that was, what did you go to school for?
Wow.
Segues, people. I'm just joking. I'm playing.
I did.
I've been getting on Bryan all morning.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's what I think about Josh Taylor. And I got killed for saying this because there's a lot of Josh Taylor fans that go ham for him. But listen, I thought Jack Catterall kind of exposed him. And it didn't look like the Josh Taylor that we were used to seeing because, he bodied Jose Ramirez. Like in that fight, and I'm a big Jose Ramirez fan. You know this, Bryan. I go hard for Jose Ramirez. And I thought in that fight, it didn't look like the Jose Ramirez that we were used to seeing, but he was able to get 2 knockdowns. Jose Ramirez did not look good. Josh Taylor looked phenomenal. And then you take a look at his resume, and you talked about it. The 2 guys at the top of 140, definitely Regis Prograis and Josh Taylor if he wins this fight. Because if Josh Taylor wins this fight, and regardless I thought Jack Catterall beat him, but listen, that's not what his record says. So he would have Regis Prograis on his record. He would have Jack Catterall on his record. He would have Jose Ramirez on his record. And then he would have Teofimo Lopez on his record. And I don't think we can knock the fact that he would be the best 140-pounder if he had that resume. If he has that resume, he's the best at 140, no doubt about it. And he did hold all the titles at one point. Had to vacate them. So that's what I think about Josh Taylor. I think it's a massive fight where if he beats Teofimo Lopez, then we just got to stop talking smack and just be like, yo, he is the best. And you know what? He would have to be above Regis at that point because he would have the better resume. And you got to go by resume.
Especially if he does this convincingly, right? Like there's a faction of people who thought Sandor Martin beat Teofimo Lopez. There's a smaller faction of people that thought Vasily Lomachenko did as well. He did not.
Yo, here's the thing though. I did at first, but I went back and I rewatched the fight and Teofimo Lopez won by 1 point.
I had a 95-94. Okay.
Yeah, so I went back and rewatched it, but the thing about it is Sandor Martin is such a tricky fighter. Like that was a tougher fight than Jose Pedraza. And people don't give Teofimo credit for that. So that's